what do you think it would take to complete the Great Commission?
Yeah, I would say really there's two things that come to my mind. We learned about the great imbalance that's happening, particularly in the 1040 window. So 5.1 billion people inside the 1040 window, 59 countries, less than 3% of all Christendom's missions dollars goes inside the window. Think about that. Only 2 to 3% of all the world's missions dollars are going where there's 2/3 of the world's population. That is, in fact, a great imbalance. When we've learned of that as an organization, that was unacceptable to us. And so we began to strategically move funds and start reallocating resources into the 1040 window to attack this. It's one thing if you don't know about a problem. If you know about a problem, then you're responsible. Open Door Ministries produces the top 50 most persecuted countries list every year. Well, 44 of those 50 are inside the 1040 window, and Doulos is now working in 28 of those. We've been very fortunate to grow financially every year. So as we have more resources coming in, and as we're reallocating resources with our partners, we've been able to strategically move into that area and see some really great fruit. Now, my second answer would be, and this is something in my 13 years of experience, this, I believe, can be the greatest tool to see the Great Commission filled, maybe not in my lifetime, because I'm getting ready to be 65, but certainly in your lifetime. So we were down in Florida. Josh Clark, our president, and I were down in Florida in November when we were completing the vetting of the Timothy Initiative. And so we came out of that vetting process because the Timothy Initiative had brought 2 of their guys from India and 1 of their guys from Africa. We met down in South Carolina, and we were able to spend 2 hours with these brothers and ask the same questions to them in a vetting role that we would if we were sitting in their hut. And it was really an anointed meeting. Josh and I came out of that meeting ready to move forward with our partnership with the Timothy Initiative, which we made our first financial investments in December. But what was so intriguing, Cody, that blew my mind away was when we walked across the hall and Jared Nelms, the CEO, was doing a breakout session, and there was about 75 of us in there. And there was a word up on the screen that was actually misspelled. It's the word achieve. He said, about a year ago, Campus Crusade for Christ had developed a software called iShare. And iShare is a mapping software. They'd invested $1 million from continent to country to block down to the district level. And they felt like they had completed the task that the Lord had given them to do. And they called a church planting organization, and who they called was TTI, the Timothy Initiative. And they asked Jared if they gave him the software, would they complete the software down to the village level and use it? And he said they would. 722,000 identified villages. So basically, there's this collision between technology and boots on the ground. First of all, the guys on the ground now know where all the villages are in their area. And they go in and they ask 2 questions. Are there any Christians here? Or have there been any churches planted here? As the data began to flow in, what they found was this was too big for them. And so Jared starts calling some of CEOs of other major ministries and starts asking, are you guys willing to be a part of this initiative? Which, by the way, the word achieve means a church in every village, ACHIEV, a church in every village in those 2 countries. As the data begins to come in and as ministries begin to say yes, they created a nonprofit called the Coalition of the Willing. And this Coalition of the Willing has come together and said, we don't care who gets the credit. we're going to be open-handed. We're going to work together. And this is 9 major ministries that have come together and have said, we want to take the gospel and plant a church in every village in those 2 countries, which is 1/6 of the world's population.